What's up, Wisconsin, from the Inside Wisconsin studios and here on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. Trevor Thomas, John Anderson, J.A. I like the times when we talk track and field, but talking to PA announcers is a little better for me. The Bucks PA guy today on the show.
It's so sexy, I can't contain myself. I'm having to sit on my excitement.
Listen, Double Z and Kenny Bednarik were great people, but I couldn't relate much.
No, listen, I'm here for anybody that is about enunciation and pronunciation.
Sure.
And, good tone, people with good pipes. I am envious, not just of great PA announcers, because, I sit there and appreciate the work. I like people with good pipes, period. You hear guys once in a while and go, God, if I sounded like that, I could be way, way ahead. Or at least if nothing else, I could just, voice the Toyota commercials or something like that when they go through. I had a guy that I went to school with, a guy named Jeff Friend, who I can still hear Jeff's voice. He was from Pittsburgh, didn't have any of that Yinzer accent. He didn't sound like Mike McCarthy or anything. But he just had this great, deep, not a bass, just this really nice baritone, very rich. And you just went, golly, wish I sounded like that guy.
Well, I'm pretty sure your voice has
you
been
can get away the other way. You can get away. Look at Tim Kirchin, right? When he really gets excited. No, really, Trevor, are you kidding me? So it conveys the same excitement, and yet I don't know that he's made out for the PA job. But yeah, listen, guys with pipes, I'm all in. I'm fans.
Yeah, and I was a big fan of his when I was younger. I played at the Bradley Center. I talked to him a little bit about that. Back then, he was just getting started, and I can still hear his voice booming at the Bradley Center for the initial Bucks games that I went to when I was a kid. Fun to reminisce. Cool to talk to this guy. This is Eric Jensen. He's the Bucks PA guy on the Inside Wisconsin Show.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Aaron's Company, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, Provea Health, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Hey, remember to subscribe on YouTube. Leave a review. Smash the like button. Just get with us. I'm not trying to age him. That's The Rock. That's Eric Jensen. But that is the guy that was my inspiration to become a public address announcer. So we're just going to start there. Wow. I don't mean to make you sound old. It's Eric Jensen, the Bucks PA guy, and also the producer for the Bob and Brian Show on 102.9 The Hog. Rock, thanks for joining us, man.
Oh, thanks for having me on today, guys.
Listen, not all heroes wear capes, right? You know that. Some of them have microphones in front of them, and that's the. How does one get into being the PA announcer? Because I feel like that's always, for everybody, that's some sort of circuitous route. There's no
direct way, right? No direct way in. They actually sought me out to be the PA announcer for the Milwaukee Wave indoor soccer team years ago. That was my first PA announcing. I was with the Bob and Brian Show, and every morning I do a kind of a PA type of introduction to the show to start the show off. And David Snyder, who was working for the Wave at the time, he liked the sound of it, and they needed a PA announcer. So he called me and asked me if I'd do it. And I told him I know absolutely nothing about indoor soccer or even soccer in general. And he said, doesn't matter. We'll have someone helping you in your ear, telling you what to say. And so I did that for a few years, and that was a lot of fun. We won a lot of championships with the Milwaukee Wave. And, I kind of did a couple of other things in there. When Bob Betts got sick, I filled in for him for the Brewers. I did about half a season for the Brewers at the end of County Stadium. And then I was set to announce for the Admirals, and the Bucks gig opened, and I auditioned for it and got it. And I've been doing that now for 23 years. So,
all right. So
just kind of never planned on doing it. It just happened,
23 years ago, I just turned 40. 23 years ago, I was 17. I was a junior at Johnson Creek High School, and my basketball team got to come and play at the Bradley Center, as that's where you all started back then. And I'm not kidding. I will never forget the first time I heard you PA announce for the Bucks. I had always wanted to be a PA announcer because I noticed that the guy with the mic in an arena controls the joy in the room. And as much as we feed off of the crowd feeds off of you too. So 23 years ago now, that team was Ray Allen, the big dog, right? Sam Cassell. How much has
Yep.
it changed since you first started doing this back then?
Well, that was, that team was really good. And they were, when I started in 2000, 2000 season, they were already a playoff team. And that was a lot of fun. And it was on the way up. The next year was the year we almost made it to the finals, lost to the Philly in the Eastern Conference Finals. So it was jumping right into something that was really exciting. And the arena was one of the loudest arenas in the NBA at that time. And it was just a lot of fun. George Karl would walk out of the tunnel before the game and everyone get on their feet and give him a standing ovation. And stuff that gave you goosebumps, especially just first starting. But then we went into the long walk in the woods for years, where just, a lot of lean years in there with some ups and downs where we made the playoffs and things like that. But I never envisioned that we'd ever win a championship in Milwaukee. It just didn't seem realistic to me. Like, I'm like, we could get to be a second, third round playoff team, but I can't even imagine winning a championship. And well, when we got Giannis, that changed everything. Then it was like, well, all right, we're now in the discussion. This could happen.
That's different than having a team that's really close and let's acquire Anthony Mason. And that's going to be the piece that puts us over the top. I still haven't forgiven George for that.
I haven't either, or for trading Ray Allen. That it was just, when we got Anthony Mason, I kind of felt good about it.
Like a good idea.
We need this toughness. This is the guy we need. And then it was, what you saw, how it played out on the floor, it was like, oh man, this is a disaster.
Felt like a really good idea.
Yeah.
I was excited too, because I had, when I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, he was on their CBA team. Here's Anthony Mason out of nowhere, right? And
really?
Then he comes up and he finds a role in the NBA with the Knicks. And I thought, okay, this is going to be all right. And then when it wasn't all right, obviously, I completely changed my tune. I was against it the whole time. Everybody could see that. It was totally documented. It's all George Karl's fault, and we've ruined the whole entire team. And now until once in a while, Michael Redd makes a bucket.
He tweeted, George tweeted, I think it was, I don't know, about a half a year ago, maybe a year ago, about if there was a couple of things he wishes he could have back, or wished a couple of trades that with his teams he wished never happened, and the Ray Allen trade was one of them. And I commented on his tweet like, well, all due respect, Coach, but weren't you the instigator behind that trade? And he liked the tweet. He didn't comment on it, but he saw it, and everyone knows he called Ray princess and things like that in practice, and thought he was soft and wanted to bring in a guy like Gary Payton. So that took us years to recover from that one.
Whoopsie.
Yeah, they're super happy where I live, man. They're Ray's practically sainted both in Connecticut for his time here, and then obviously just up the road there in Boston when it comes through. We did get finals games. Do PA announcers know when it's a finals game, and it's do we have butterflies at a finals game that we might not have in January 23rd on a Wednesday?
Kinda, when you're sitting at home and you're going to drive down to the arena in a couple hours and it's going to be a finals game. I don't know if it's really butterflies. It's just more excitement and just kind of anticipation of, wow, this is incredible, So, and then once you're sitting behind the mic and things start up, it's just pretty much like a regular game. In fact, it's, besides the excitement and everything you want to bring, there's less things going on during timeouts and halftime and thing like during the finals. It's just straight ahead game, pretty much what they're bringing. So
that finals run, who was more important to the atmosphere, you or Ben Tainai?
Well, Ben was more important for just overall juju, having him there singing every night. If he would have got laryngitis and missed, I think some people would have really been like, uh-oh, now we're in trouble. But having Ben there ready to go every night, I think that was awesome. and we've also had great hype people in the arena. Melanie and Joe were really going strong there, and the crowd was just it was incredible, the way the crowd was. Plus, we were just first back from COVID, right? That was the first finals back from the bubble. People were ready for it. The town was on fire. It was great.
Mm-hmm. How do I find my balance? How much is too much? How do I know where I want to get everybody involved here, but I still want to watch Giannis make baskets. I didn't come exclusively to hear you.
Yeah, that's something you always have to kind of find the balance to. There's some guys that just scream and they won't stop. I did some announcing for arena football, and they want you just at 11 the entire game. It's insane. It's like, if everything is spectacular, nothing is. You'd have to pick your times to really come out and make something a little extra special. And that's just always, it's kind of a judgment call on the announcer. I think that's something that makes a good PA announcer, is having good judgment with that.
Now,
you go, Jay.
I was going to ask. Now, does it come with asides? Because every once in a while, I have a talkback button, right? So I can kill my own mic, and so I'll say something. Guy hits a home run, you're going, boy, thank God that pitcher deserved it. He was a dork. Do you ever do that? Hey, foul on number 27, and then once it's off, turn to the guy goes, and of course the ref is blind because he saw nothing there. Like how often do we have a little aside once the mic is killed?
Oh, there's a lot of that, and there's guys in the headsets at times on the stats crew or something, and they're already jawing about a call, and you've got to come on and just kind of give it a straight. There are times where you almost sound like disappointed in the call, like foul, and if it's a really bad call, it's like, come on. You kind of have that expression in your voice, but you try not to do too much of that.
Mm-hmm.
So how much changed when the Bucks moved to the Fiserv, right? Because I mentioned that I played at the Bradley Center, and that was a dream come true for a high school kid growing up in Wisconsin. And I thought the Bradley Center was pretty kick-ass. The Fiserv took it to a different level. What was that like moving? And maybe how bad was the Bradley Center? Because I guess I never saw how bad it was. Why did they have to build that new one?
Well, I mean, Fiserv has all the new amenities, everything that a modern NBA team needs to make the money they need to make to stay competitive. And that was the main reason for the move. Bradley Center was good enough to play in and for people to come down and have a nice time and everything, but it wasn't going to support a finals or a all-star game or anything like that. It just didn't have the amenities for having a championship caliber team. But moving over there, the sound quality, the whole sound system in there, the acoustics, everything as far as my job goes, everything sounds much better in there. At Bradley Center, everything sounded like a Charlie Brown phone call to me. When I was talking on the mic, I could not make out anything I was saying. At Fiserv, everything's clear as a bell. I could hear it. It sounds good, and it's just I know it sounds much better to the fans too.
Acoustics are key, right? Like I don't want to sound, tinny. I want to sound full. The timbre of my voice needs to come through. I can't have that,
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And it does at Fiserv. I mean, the acoustics and the sound system there are top shelf. Really good.
Before a game, sometimes I have been there and the PA guy they're going through how we're going to introduce the national anthem singer, or if there's going to be something after the game, we're going to go through the trophy presentation. How different is that when you hear your voice and you think, this is way too loud, it's never going to work. And then when you put 20,000 people and you're like, I'm actually having to talk even louder, even though I have a mic in this thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's times where I tell them, I'm like, turn me down. I'm obnoxious right now. And like you say, when you fill that building with bodies, that's the right sound you want. And there's times during the playoffs where I'm asking them to turn me up, but they can't because they're at their decibel limit. And I mean, I could be screaming obscenities into that microphone and nobody would hear it because it's so loud in there. So there's different times for that. So
I watched baseball games, or last night the NHL was over. The cup was given to Las Vegas. When you are in that moment, when the Bucks win Game 6, there's literally nothing that you can say over the PA that's going to make a difference, right? How did you take that moment in yourself, growing up here in Wisconsin, like both John and I?
Yeah, I mean, it's tempting to just go crazy and keep on it, but basically when time expired, I said the final score, and I said the Milwaukee Bucks are NBA champions, and that was it. And then let the music play and the confetti drop, and everybody was, again, it was so loud at that moment too that I don't know if anyone even heard what I said, but it was such an amazing moment that you didn't want to step on that at all with over talking it, recapping the score or leading scores or anything like that. So
yeah, completely irrelevant.
Yeah, start hitting sponsors. that wasn't going to happen.
This trophy presentation brought to you by
one call. That's all.
But now I wasn't, because I would have been, if I'd have been in the state or in the country, I'd have been in the building, but I wasn't. I was in Tokyo when it happened. Did you do the whole thing? Did you have to? Did we go to the house? Did you get to introduce to the crowd? Here's Commissioner Silver and that whole thing.
I introduced someone who introduced the commissioner, which was a bit bizarre. But I'm like, all right, fine. It was on national TV, international TV, everywhere. Right. So, but I introduced someone from ABC, one of the sideline reporters, and then she introduced Adam Silver.
Okay, so it's probably Lisa Salters. You gave it to our gal Lisa.
I think
Salters.
Yes, yep, that's who it was.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, that's how it was.
So it was a double handoff.
Nice. One more quick one before we take our first break with The Rock, the Bucks PA announcer. We'll get to the radio side of your gig here in just a few. We know that pronouncing names is vital to everything that goes into talking into this mic in an arena. You were doing great. And then ANTETOKOUNNPO comes out of the woodwork. And you went, oh, crap.
Yeah. That was, and that was just the start of it. Then Mamu came along, and we had all these guys, and it got a little crazy. But, once you get a guy's name down, when you have them every night, it's easy. It's just the league. There's more and more international players and names coming in with less and less vowels in them, where you're just kind of like, wow, how does this one go? But, I've got the PR guy from the visiting team sitting 2 chairs down from me. And if you have any questions before the game, you just ask him and get it all straightened out. So it's not too big of a deal. But Giannis, at first just trying to figure out how are we going to do that one to make it sound right, and when we want to do it loud and booming when he does something big, was a little, had to go through a couple of different variations, but eventually we got it. And, I'm told he likes it. So
that's all that matters.
That's the best. That's what I need.
And then, right, the second Antetokounmpo is much easier when he comes through, right? All right, we already got it down.
Right, exactly. Yeah, but you don't want to really do them the same. I mean, you got to say them the same, but not give them the same panache that Giannis has.
Do you have guys lobby you on how they want it? We need a little more juice here. Can they,
I've never had a player really come to me with that. I've had visitors kind of joking around, like Paul Pierce. He'd always, before he'd check in, he'd say to me, "It's pronounced Pierce," that type of thing, goofing around. But I've never had a player ask for a certain way of being introduced or give me a little more or something like that. Thanasis does come down and ask me to get the crowd fired up at some key points of playoff games, but it's kind of like there's nothing else we can do. We're screaming. Everybody's the crowd is going crazy anyways at that point. So, He just wants it more, I guess.
My favorite is when you get a guy that doesn't start and he barely plays and he has some completely jacked name and you can practice it and phonetically write it and all of it. And then he comes in with 4 minutes left in the game and you completely forgot how to say it. That has happened to me so many.
Yeah, especially, because usually you have in your head two ways of pronouncing it. Like it could either be this or that. And even once you figure it out, by the time that guy gets in the game, you forget which one it was. So it's in your head. You're like, oh, no.
Funny.
So, yeah. But that's when that having that PR guy close is good. You can just kind of lean over and holler down to him and say, how is that again? So.
But I want to ask both of you then real quick, because Trevor keeps trying to take a break. And now you know how I feel about producers. I like to talk right through the producers.
Sorry.
We don't have a hard out at the top of the hour. We don't have to get out at 04 and make sure we get the break. We're going to get.
All right. I'll be here.
Okay. So you do the phonetics on this sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And we get phonetics. But after a while, do you find that the phonetics only confuse you once you get it down? Right.
Yes,
like I always say,
sure.
I literally type Giannis's name in my computer or Krzyzewski. I put like KRY and then I hit shift and I go across the top button. The top of the numbers, and then put ski. And Antetokounmpo, same thing. I just put A&T, and then it's $, whatever, and then Po, because I just know how it is. So after a while, or a kid will bring you a name, and it's like, who is this person? And you're like, oh, it's Hobby Bullen. Why did this? No, I don't want it there anymore. Do you guys have that same kind of deal?
For sure. I mean, even when we have like a kids game before the Bucks game, they'll get – it's someone's responsibility to get all the pronunciations for the name, and they'll write them out phonetically. And it's like, you didn't need to do that on that one because I sat there and looked at it. And if I would have just known it was Johansson instead of spelt out Johan,
right.
If I could have just looked at Johansson, I would have had no problem with it. But here I am trying to figure that, what is this one now? So,
right.
A lot of times it will trip you up. I mean, it's good to figure out before the game how this one's said, but yeah, you don't want it there every time you're going to pronounce it, especially like you when you're doing highlights and you really got to be rolling quick. That's would be a total speed bump, I imagine.
Different ball game.
I like it when same thing.
The only time I really get caught up, I do spell names phonetically because it does help me, especially if I don't know the player. If I know the player and they're on GB, then I don't need to do it after I get it down. But what really screws with me is when a player comes in, we always announce where they're from too, like where they went to college in the starting lineup. If they're from some crazy country that has a town that I've never heard of or I can't pronounce, they're just from that country. Like I can say Germany, but whatever Hansen, Faser, Black Fort, like I have no clue what that says.
Yeah.
So they're just from Germany.
That's the PGA Tour's way of doing it, right? It's always from Rory is just from Northern Ireland. We don't go into Tiger's from Jupiter, Florida, and so is from San Diego, California. But if you're the best golfer in Latvia, you're just from Latvia.
Yeah,
it's all right.
Absolutely.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
The only one I do, their town is from Athens, Greece for Giannis. And just because I noticed his brother did that when he introduced, we had a game where family members taped an introduction and they all did it. His brother said from Athens, Greece. So I thought, well, all right, I'll introduce him from there instead of just Greece. So,
well, it worked. They like it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Quick break. I promise we'll be back in like 30 seconds. That is the Bucks PA guy and the producer, Bob and Brian. His name is Eric Jensen. More with Rock in a bit. We're the Inside Wisconsin Show.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Aaron's Company, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, Provea Health, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Hey, remember to subscribe on YouTube. Leave a review. Smash the like button. Just get with us. Summertime in Wisconsin calls for a Miller Lite. J.A., I want to know, are you a can koozie guy? You put the Miller Lite in a koozie?
I will if I'm on a golf course when I know I can't drink it quick enough. Usually 12 ouncer, I can get that down for it. It warms up. But on the course, if you got to go hit, I got to go look for your lost ball, something like that. That's going to delay my thing. Then I have one that I will use.
I've really never had an issue with worrying about my beer getting cold or warm, I should say. Yeah, I've never had that problem. I do every once in a while rock a can koozie, but it's my favorite part of the white Miller Lite can ever since that came back. You can put it in a can koozie, and the bev cart person knows what you're drinking because they can see the white top. It's really the only beer that has that white top. Oh, man, that's a great can. I know this was just a no-brainer to bring this white can back. I'm not kidding.
Remember I called you because you were kind of in the employ of that industry, and I said,
yeah,
the white thing which you brought, right? They brought it back just sort of for not a lark, but just was supposed to be limited time only.
It was,
and people went cuckoo for it,
and they had no choice but to keep it. It went absolutely ballistic. It was like the beer that our parents grew up drinking. It was in this can. I don't know if they make can koozies for the old 24-ouncer, the silo here that's in my hand, but this one I might need a koozie for. 24 ounces is a different deal.
That's the one where my boys now grab one of those or even bigger and just go, how about a twister? And then you just pass it around until it's gone.
No koozie needed for that little party either.
How about a twister?
Well, it is summertime in Wisconsin, and Miller Lite goes hand in hand with a Miller Lite in your hand. Summer doesn't just taste great, it tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/inside Wisconsin, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer, whether it's on the golf course or the grocery liquor store department.
Liquor store's got it.
Pretty
still got it. Went in there the other day. It's still there. Lots of it.
Still there. White can and all. Celebrate responsibly.
It's like everybody drinks it. It's crazy.
I know. It's like
very popular.
Big thing. It's super odd to find it there. All right. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces, or math, 6.4 carbs per 24 ounces. See, I know what I'm doing. Between segments with our guy, Eric Jensen, they call him The Rock, the Bucks PA guy. Time for another top 5 list here on the Inside Wisconsin show, presented as always by Wisconsin's best engineering school, the University of Wisconsin-Platteville. UW-Platteville offers an affordable engineering program, and its graduates stay in Wisconsin, driving innovation at top companies right here at home. Find out more at uwplatt.edu/engineering. Was that your second choice, JA, before you got into broadcasting? It was like, yeah, if I don't do this, I'm totally going to be an engineer. Is that true?
Not quite like that, but it is odd. If it had not been this, I would have been somewhere I'd have been a math guy. Oddly enough, my least favorite classes as a kid, I despised taking English classes.
Interesting.
And grammar, and now I've had it drilled into me so long. But yeah, I do much better with I can turn numbers on their head, and sometimes grammar and spelling still can perplex me.
And yet, one of your best lines is, "I was told there would be no math."
Here I am, but I can still on occasion. I can. I'm not working derivatives around the house anymore just for fun. But I was able to help my kids with homework deep into high school, which not always the case. So.
You wouldn't get it today. Oof. Math is all right. Reminiscing about Bradley Center, talking about Fiserv Forum, had me thinking about concerts in Wisconsin. I want to share my top 5 concerts here in the state of Wisconsin I've been to, and I'm 40. Okay. And I feel like your favorite 5 concerts back when you were younger are going to be a little bit different. So who's first, me or you?
I don't care.
All right, I'll go first for a change this time.
Let's have it.
Number 5 on my list, concerts. You ever heard of the Trans-Siberian Orchestra? I know that's not what you typically think of with a concert, but
they do some Christmas stuff.
Yeah, and they were at the Resch Center, and there's lasers and guitars and Old City Bar is probably my favorite song ever. That's sung by Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Super kick-ass concert at the Resch. Okay. That's number 5. Number 4, I have to admit this, my first concert ever was at Bradley Center, and it was when I was 17 years old, and I went with a 19-year-old girl, and we went to see the Backstreet Boys. And it was really loud. I know. You would have went with her too. Trust me. Number 3, Green Day at the Resch Center. Man, that was I live here in Green Bay, deep here.
Nice.
And the Resch is a really cool spot to see concerts. It only seats like 10,000 or something like that. Green Day was really cool. Here's my top 2. Number 2, Kenny Chesney at both Miller Park and Lambeau Field. I know Mark Murphy came out and said that he's trying to get Bruce Springsteen to Lambeau before he's all done, said and done. Kenny Chesney at Lambeau Field was incredible. I missed the Elton John and Billy Joel concert at Lambeau. I really kicked myself for that because I bet you that'd be in this top 5 list. But Kenny Chesney, Lambeau Field, he was there twice, saw him at Miller Park once. So that was awesome. And number 1 will probably never be beaten. I saw Garth Brooks at Bradley Center twice and on back-to-back days.
We love
Friday,
him.
Saturday. That guy puts on an incredible show. If we ever do get to talk to Mark Murphy before he's done, I want to tell him to kick Bruce Springsteen to the curb and get Garth at Lambeau Field. Well, you're right. I know I thought that might be offensive to you. All right, what are your top 5 concerts here in Wisconsin?
Let me just, if I can pile on that. So Tamra, she used to just go see Garth Brooks down at the local watering hole because she was in school at the same time as he was at Oklahoma State. Jeez. And so they just go to a place called Wild Willie's, and she's seen him God knows how many times, but never in concert, just him there. And one of her best friends has a canceled check from when he came and played at the fraternity house where they all went. And so, yeah, it's kind of crazy, right?
That is crazy. Yeah. That's awesome.
And somewhere I have a program from my very first Big 8 track meet I was at where the people are listed, right? There's Anderson and a Mike and a Coy. And then Oklahoma State, there's Garth Brooks. So we both were in the same Big 8 track meet in the spring of 1984 when he was throwing the javelin. So how about that? So anyway.
That just lives up there. You knew that.
Sure. Well, but I have it. I stick around. That's like at the time I didn't know who he was, but afterwards it's crazy. And then like I said, Tamara speaks a lot of times about just going down to Wild Willie's with
wild. That's wild.
What's happening there. So also a good concert venue from my understanding. I haven't been there. The Widener Center is apparently great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just saw Mercy Me there like a month or 2 ago.
My mom has called me twice for tickets in her life. One was to go to the NFC Championship game. The year it was limited attendance, they came back.
Yep.
Was that the
Yeah, I offered to take her. You remember that? I offered to take her, like if she needed a chaperone.
She found somebody else. She asked me for tickets for that, which I managed to find for her. And then she wanted to go see Darius Rucker at the Widener Center.
Yeah, nice. So aren't you buddies with him? Yeah.
A little bit. So I know him a little bit. So I actually called his bodyguard and we got it taken care of, buddy. Anyway, but the Widener Center is great. Okay, so I'm going to move this one down just so I can get into it. This is for you. I had it higher, but I'm going to put it here so we can draw it together. Number 5, Alpine Valley, Bruce Springsteen. Screw you. Okay?
Sorry.
84, Born in the USA tour. Bang. We're there.
Okay? Alpine. That's a great spot.
So I don't even know if that makes it, that was way up there. Now that's going to be number 5, and I'm going to have to do some math on the way here. Okay? Number 4 was seeing Coco Taylor, the great blues singer, in a church down in Beloit. Well, it wasn't a church anymore, but it had been. So that she's there at number 4. Number 3, another great blues artist was seeing John Lee Hooker at the Carlton Celebrity Room. And we had a guy that was on our cross-country team named Cupcake. I can't think of his first name because we all just called him Cupcake. And Cupcake was working there, and he got us in the back to meet the legendary John Lee Hooker, right? Boom, boom, boom. And so, Hook, can we get a picture taken with you? Okay, we didn't have these. And he says, sure, just be careful. My eyes, I don't need any bright lights. So Steve Sharp and I are there, Sharpie, and we're on each side of the Hook, and Cupcake's got the camera and just old school explosion of light. And so we got the picture, and then John Lee Hooker got mad and threw us out because
oh my gosh. I told you no flash.
We literally blinded him by the light. There you go. Another Springsteen.
Wow.
Number 2, I've spoken about on this program before when we had Gorman Thomas, is I saw Simon and Garfunkel at County Stadium.
Yeah.
That was fantastic. They had done the concert in the park in New York, huge success. They sold the album like, hey, let's go on a tour. So I went with my sister. We saw them, and that's where our boy, Art Garfunkel stood in center field and said, this is where Gorman Thomas stands, huh? And the place went crazy.
Yeah, I remember he said.
Then he put his hands in his back pocket and sang Bridge Over Troubled Water. And you're like, okay, that's a good day. And then number 1, we are going back to Alpine Valley Music Theater where we saw Bob Dylan and Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers together.
Ooh.
Which was phenomenal until the Deadheads were coming in the next day, the Grateful Dead. So they all came in and parked, and we couldn't get out.
Oh, wow.
So we couldn't get out, and we waited, and like we eventually had, you know where that place is tucked in, no cell phones. So we had to go and eventually find a payphone, and we didn't get back. You know, the concert was done at 11:30. We should have been home, you know, by 1. We didn't get home till like 8 in the morning because we just couldn't get out. They were all just parked in. The Deadheads, they were selling bracelets and acid and the whole thing. And it was the longest I've ever taken to get out of a concert, which is absolutely crazy. But that one was fantastic to go see that. So we're going to
just stayed for the Grateful Dead the next day.
We're going to bookend the Alpine with Bruce Springsteen and then Dylan and Tom Petty, those were amazing.
Not a big Bruce guy, but big Garth guy. Let's get Garth to Lambeau Field.
Not against him at all.
We're back, the Inside Wisconsin Show. Trevor Thomas, John Anderson, and Eric Jensen of PA fame there at the Fiserv for the Bucks games, but also the producer of the Bob and Brian Show, which was on Laser 103 when I was a kid, but now it's 102.9 The Hog. So, Rock, talk to us about that, because you get up super early, but way to pick a side gig that stays up super late. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. How long have you been with Bob and Brian, and how much sleep do you get after a Bucks game? Let's be real.
Well, I've been with Bob and Brian 27 years and with the Bucks 23. So most of those years I've been doing Bucks games into the night hours and getting up early. Fortunately, Bob and Brian don't require a lot of pre-show prep. So I get there about 5 in the morning, and I can get out of a Bucks game usually pretty quickly, and I'll be home by between 11 and 11:30 after a Bucks game. So it takes a little while to wind down and, get to bed about midnight or so and get about 4 hours of sleep on a Bucks home game night. But, sleep when you're dead, I say.
So I want to make it, because I don't get that show in my area. So you were on 103 and now it's 102.9. Is that correct?
Yeah. It was called
previously
Laser
rounded up, and now we're just going with the regular.
Right.
We're just going out to the first decimal.
Because everything's digital now. Back in the day when it was Laser 103, that's when you tuned it in on your radio dial. So 102.9 was close enough where if you went to 103, you'd find it. But now, with everything digital on your radio, you've got to put it right there.
Mm-hmm. Good.
So for me, part of growing up here, right, I spent a lot of time in radio too, and I was a fan of a lot of radio people before I started working in radio myself. Bob and Brian have been the #1 morning show in Milwaukee, specifically in their genre, for 30 years almost, Eric.
Yeah, they've dominated for, like you say, 30 years here in town.
So when you do things over and over for a long period of time, they get kind of stagnant. But for some reason, they just haven't. And whether it's the one question line or the trivia or whatever the case may be, how has that been for you over 27 years working with the same two guys every single morning?
It's just fun. You come in, it's something that if I didn't have in my life, I would miss. It's not like a job where you kind of are like, oh man, I got to go to work tomorrow. You're going to go in and they're going to crack you up with things that you have no idea how they're going to get on these topics and where they're going to go with it, but they manage to do it every morning. And, we get done with the show and it's always something where they're like, never thought we'd talk about that this morning when we came in, but it ends up happening. And, they do it in a unique way pretty much every day. I mean, it's the same features and everything, but different topics and different ways of presenting them. So it keeps it fresh.
People work so hard to try to achieve those things, right? I look to some degree at our NBA show that we keep trying to capture the right people. How do we get the Barkley thing with Ernie Johnson? We had Ernie on and we were talking about that, and we try to put them together. And every radio program director is like, how do I get these guys? How do you what is it about those two guys, just in your estimation, that works? What is it that, because you can give away the company secret because you can give it to two other people and it doesn't work the same way.
Right. I mean, there's a number of things. They have incredible chemistry. They've been friends since all through high school. They've lived together. They've been poor together, working their way up in radio and small markets. The chemistry between those two is unbelievable. They both have kind of things that complement each other. Like Bob is the guy that Bob could keep the needles bouncing for hours. He could talk about anything for hours and keep it interesting. And then long enough, he keeps the balls in the air for Brian, who's the funny guy, to hit him out of the park pretty much. And that's just a perfect combination, I think, with the way they work. And I mean, not to say that Bob's not funny. Bob says plenty of funny things too, but Brian's the guy that really sets the hooks on people with some of the hilarious stuff and his different voices and accents and things like that. So, you combine those two things, and they actually, even though it doesn't sound like it at times, they take radio seriously and respect the forum and everything. And you can turn on the radio these days and hear, it's like, what's that guy doing on the radio? Bob and Brian, they're kind of old school that way. Well, they are old school, but they grew up listening to Larry Lujak in Chicago, and because they grew up in Racine, so they listened to a lot of Chicago radio and WLS, so they picked up a lot of good habits from that. And it's just a combination of those things. It's you can't tell a kid today that you need to do this, you need to have good chemistry, you need to talk all the time, and you need to hit out the home runs. It's just something that they know how to do.
And I grew up listening to them. Like, can't make it up. That was the show, them and a crew out of Madison. Speaking of growing up, you grew up in Brookfield, live in Oconomowoc now. Every once in a while, you must pinch yourself, right? I mean, you're working with, now for the last 27 years, the #1 morning radio show in Milwaukee, and you're the Bucks PA guy, but at some level, you're still the Wisconsin kid that probably never intended to be doing what you're doing. So often do you reflect on that growing up, again, just like John and I, never really planning on what we were going to do, but you got quite the gig for a Wisconsin boy.
Yeah. I mean, it really is. I grew up a radio fan, and I grew up on QFM. I was a rock guy when I was a kid, and that's where I started in radio. And when QFM went under, then I went over to Laser, and then I started working with Bob and Brian. And that in itself was a moment where I had to pinch myself, kind of like when I was up on top of the Wisconsin Avenue building, where Tim the Rock and Roll Animal hung out on the ledge for weeks to get the Who to come there, and I was broadcasting from that studio. It was like there was a lot of history in my core from that from growing up in that area. And then being with Bob and Brian, for years we tried to battle Bob and Brian at QFM, and it didn't work. That's why QFM they kicked our ass. So then I end up with them, and you can't beat them, join them type of thing. And it's been just a great ride. With those guys are my two best friends now, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And then obviously being the announcer of the Bucks, I when I was a kid, my dad used to take me down to the arena, to games, and we'd wait outside in the cold outside the locker room door when they come out the back of the building and see Marcus Johnson and Sidney Moncrief and all those guys come out after a game, and to be able to announce them now, and throughout the years, all the different players, and just make relationships with so many great people through the organizations and stuff. It's been a total Wisconsin dream come true.
So for the most part, right, you are a voice. When you are a producer on the radio show, you're behind, you're behind scenes. They hear you some, but it is not out front. Mm-hmm. You are a voice. So how often is the voice recognized? Do you go in when you're buying your wife's, you're buying a Mother's Day card for your mom, or you're at the hardware store and would you like to contribute, round up for the charity, and they hear your voice and they go, wait, that's the loud guy from the Bucks game. Like, how often does that occur?
It just happened. I had to drop my truck off because I had a screw in my tire. I dropped it off at the tire shop, and a guy that I didn't know there was taking down my information. And when I said Eric Jensen, he goes, "Oh, the Eric Jensen." He goes, "I hear it now." That's what he said. So, I mean, it happens fairly often. But also at Oconomowoc, there's another Eric Jensen who's a legend here from Oconomowoc High. He was a state champion wrestler. He's a coach at the high school for wrestling. And I'll get that at the hardware store also when, you're giving your name for the and they'll say, Eric Jensen, the wrestler? And well, I wrestled in high school, but nobody really calls me the wrestler,
That's when you go, they do call me the Rock, though. They do call
Yeah, give him the eyebrow raise. But, he says he gets it. People ask it if he's me, too. So we get it both ways, I guess.
So you mentioned earlier Bob Betts. That was another guy that I grew up literally sitting in County Stadium with the binoculars watching him and Bob Euchre.
Yeah.
Is the baseball thing something that did you audition this last time when it came back open? And I mean, my God, like that is, if I had a dream job, John's heard this number of different times, I would love to be the PA guy for the Brewers. So maybe just tell me how you auditioned for that and who to call. Go ahead.
Well, I auditioned. I didn't this last time it came open because there would have been too much conflict with the Bucks. So it didn't work out. The time after Bob, when Rob Edwards got it, I auditioned, and it came down to Rob and me. And there was a number of things. I had a really bad cold the day we were auditioning too. So I was stuffed up and everything, my head was just 100 pounds. But they had you announce they wanted you just to do the sausage race, like a racetrack announcer. That was part of the audition. Just how would you announce this batter and that batter and things like that. So, if you've done PA, you would have a great shot of getting it if it ever opens again.
Just let me know.
And I think you can tell me. I think somehow there's still a romanticism about the baseball PA guy that is not associated with the NBA guy or the NFL guy or anything else. I think there's still, like, everybody just has Bob Shepard something about Yankee Stadium, right? Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like there's still a romance about the baseball PA guy.
I think you're right. And I think Mark Richards, the guy, the new Brewers announcer, he's been doing it a couple of years now, he's perfect right now. He sounds great for it. Baseball, to me, I find it kind of boring, to tell you the truth, because it's you announce a batter and then you just sit back and watch him bat. And then the next batter, now batting shortstop, and then you sit back and you watch him bat. Basketball is almost like a play-by-play. It's happening so fast. You're calling a lot of stuff. You're really, really involved. But to tell you the truth, if I had my choice starting out, whether I could have been the Brewers or the Bucks, I would have chosen the Brewers back then because I was a baseball player, big baseball fan. And like I said, I was a wrestler in high school, so I didn't know basketball inside and out like most people do, that are play basketball in high school and that. So I love it now, and I'm glad that I am doing the NBA over basketball, but I do think there is some kind of romantic thing with baseball announcers, and just not overhyping and kind of just being the eloquent announcer.
Yeah, sure, in the big leagues, but try announcing a Northwoods League baseball game. You are an advertiser whore. You are. That's all you do.
At every inning, there's some crazy thing going on, and in between innings, right?
Oh,
some contest.
Every pitch. Sometimes we had foul balls sponsored. Tri-City Glass and Door. I'll never forget it. I bet you I said that 1,000 times. When you're doing basketball games, maybe I can relate to this. It is nonstop. I mean, it's fouls, it's points. it's assists sometimes. Do you ever catch yourself accidentally watching the game and forgetting you're announcing? Because I do that. Like if it's an intense game and you're kind of back and forth, I could be holding on to the roster. I know I'm announcing, and all of a sudden I'm like, whoop, crap. Like I'm paying attention as a fan at the moment. This is a great seat, by the way.
Yeah, it does happen. You've got to really kind of stick with it and, make sure that you're on point. But I get what you're saying, because there's so much action, and sometimes you'll see something and you're just like, oh my God, some big dunk or a block or something like that. And you got to reel it back in and just focus on the job at hand.
Yeah.
We always say that SportsCenter After Dark or on pay-per-view, which we always say pay-per-view, like people aren't paying for cable anyway. But late night would be twice as funny. It would be really great. Do you ever have to fight the idea that let's introduce somebody from the opposing team? I don't care who it is. Here's Lonzo Ball, who, by the way, hasn't paid his insurance in 3 months. Or do you ever feel like it would be so great if I could just put in just one thing that I really would love to do?
Kind of like the Will Ferrell introductions. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. From Semi-Pro. Yeah, exactly. Yes, yeah. Exactly. Like here's Trevor Thomas, who, is he wrestles giraffes in the off season because they're the only thing is, stuff like that.
Yeah, I'd love to do it. I think you'd hear from the league pretty quick if anything like that happened, but they are getting more and more ludicrous with the background music they'll play while we're introducing the visiting team or something like that. So maybe somewhere along the way and in some of these playoff games, we'll, be able to poke fun at a couple of the players. But right now, especially in the playoffs, they've got that down to every second is accounted for in that pregame right before we're going to go to Anthem. And, or you come out of Anthem, and I've got to rip through the visitor team so fast that sometimes I don't even say what college you're from. I'll just say the position, and roll through them super fast. That's lights out and video, and then we do our regular introduction. But there's a guy from TNT or ESPN that's the time coordinator, and his arm is flapping like this to go faster, So there's not a heck of a lot of time in a lot of games to work that in. But maybe in a Tuesday night against the Bobcats or something, we could.
Yeah. But if you had your way, it would be nice. Just just one night, let me control the show when you
right. Absolutely.
Because I feel like people would come for that.
Yeah.
I just feel like that could be a thing, and
it would probably make SportsCenter too.
Totally.
Yeah, it would.
Totally do that.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're sitting here reminiscing about being PA guys, but I don't want to speak for you, Eric. I grew up wanting John's job. So, I mean,
absolutely.
This is the PA thing is fun, but we both still wanted to be you.
Yes, but we can all empathize with each other when what is it Stan Verrett used to say? He'd get a hockey name and it looked like somebody spilled the Scrabble box. Like we've all done that. You sit there and just go like, here's Fred. And if you can get through it once, you can sneak it through. So, did you enjoy doing the video game?
I did. Yeah. That it was a great experience. I'm not a big video game player, but my son is. But both of my sons are. But one in particular loves NBA 2K. I mean, when he found out that we were going to be doing this, that was the most fired up he's been about anything I've done, and it was a lot of fun. We went out to LA, got to see how it was all done, and to be a part of it was a really neat experience.
NBA 2K22, right?
Yeah, and 23. Well, I think 20 was the first one. Was it 20 or 21? I think 21 was the first one, and then 22, and then we're on 23 again. So there's always new names to do, so a little more work every year for me, which is great. And a trip out to LA to do it is pretty nice as well.
Yeah.
And now tell people how sexy that is to sit in a room with a script that's this thick and 17 water bottles, and then having to just go Trevor Thomas for 2, John Anderson for 2, Giannis for 2, right? Like it's the monotony of it is crazy.
Crazy. Yeah. And you're just saying, sometimes you're just saying names you don't even know, because sometimes they'll just have you do first names for a while, and then second names, and then for 2, and then for 3, and different things, and they get it so they can stitch it all together. And it takes it to a guy that roofs houses or something, it doesn't seem like hard work, but when you're in there after like a couple hours of this, you're like, man, I need a break. That's why they don't do 10-hour days of recording. Usually it's about 4 to 6 hours. And
you're reminiscing about Wipeout, aren't you, Jay?
We do the Wipeout thing, but the script is like that, right? And you start and you do the first one, you're all excited, and you flip the page, and you're like, holy crap, I still have. It's not even pages. You're like, I have 8 more inches to go, which is, which is even more disheartening.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's this is on a computer screen, and it kind of just flashes up at you, but so you have no idea when it's going to end, really. Yeah. But there's someone in your ear saying, "All right, we'll do about 100 more of these." Oh, okay.
Right.
So,
sweet.
Or when they go, "Can you give me that one again?" And I'm like, no. Like, no, I don't want. I've given you 1,000. I don't feel like I'm giving you that one again.
Right. Yeah.
Or what's worse is when you do kick it and you're like, crap, I'm gonna give that again.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it all sounds good when the kids play it, and then they know it and they love it.
It does, and and for guys like Brian Anderson, I mean, he's got tenfold of what we've got to do, because there's limited things for a PA announcer to say. And play-by-play color guy, it's limitless of what you could say, and I can't even imagine what that recording session must be like. But they built him a studio in his home, so he does it right there, and yeah.
Somebody else built the studio in their home.
Pretty good. They're good people to work for.
That's cool. All right, we will wrap it up with Eric Jensen, Bucks PA guy, after just a minute. We're the Inside Wisconsin Show.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Aaron's Company, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, Provea Health, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Hey, remember to subscribe on YouTube. Leave a review. Smash the like button. Just get with us. J.A., you might remember when we talked with Mark Scogan from Festival Foods that I said nobody loves fireworks more than Mark. Are you a fireworks guy, like 4th of July fireworks?
I am. I like to watch them. My mother, we were not allowed to have a ton of them, but which is probably why I enjoy them more. Luckily, the Carricks live next door, and they used to go to North Carolina a lot, and they'd come home with a trunk full around the thing. So,
right.
So, we relied on the generosity of others.
I remember growing up saying that I wondered why you could buy fireworks that were illegal, like on roadside tents and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And my parents used to say, it's not illegal to buy them. It's illegal to launch them. And I was like, what the hell does that mean? Just going to put them on the shelf and look at them? No.
It's a nuanced argument, admittedly.
Yeah. Dumb. Well, luckily for us, Festival Foods here in Wisconsin absolutely loves fireworks, specifically around the 4th of July. Go to festfoods.com/fireworks. There you will see 30 different opportunities, 30 different places across the state of Wisconsin where Festival Foods brings fireworks to your community. They do the Fire Over the Fox here in Green Bay. I know they sponsor the fireworks in my hometown of Jefferson. Anywhere that you see fireworks in the air, there is a very good chance that Festival Foods is a part of bringing it to your community this time of year, specifically around the 4th of July. So go to festfoods.com/fireworks. Look for your city, look for your opportunity in your area to go catch one of the best fireworks shows that you'll see, because Festival Foods loves fireworks.
Light them up. Just be safe out there, kids.
Yeah, wear like, if you light your own off, run. I mean, it's not, that didn't light. No, it did. Just get away. Seriously.
Give it a minute.
We're back. Final segment with Eric Jensen, the Milwaukee Bucks PA guy. All right, 2 for me, and then it's the ever-famous J.A. lightning round.
Yeah.
Rock, curious, have you ever been bango and nobody knew it?
No, I haven't.
Oh, damn it.
I wish, but it hasn't happened yet.
part of me just wants to put that thing on once and attempt to hit that jumping thing and not break my neck.
Those days have passed me by now. I would break something doing half of the things Bango does now.
One more thing about the Brewers PA job. When you were filling in for Bob Betts, did you say the number and the last name twice like he did? Like, was it center fielder number 19, Robin Yount? 19, Yount.
No, I didn't. I didn't try to sound like Bob. The only thing I took from him was the please drive home safely. He would always say that at the end of the game. Other than that, Euchre used to call me Screamer when I'd fill in for him because I was more like the NBA kind of guy. Like I have a friend that still to this day, when he sees me, he'll go, Marquise Grissom. That's how I'd introduce him. And Euchre would look at me like, tone it down a little bit, man. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Jay, whack 'em.
By the way, did people still yell stuff in between that when he used to say number 19 yell and the other team he'd do it, and then we always used to, write number 19 Trevor Thomas. Who? Trevor Thomas, and we always shouted stuff in there.
Right.
That's why you guys were always the lead into. Here's John Anderson. Smells like a bus. We always had stuff in there that you always put. That whenever it was PA stuff, it was.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we always had to do that. So anyway.
Yeah. Or, coming down on 2 minutes. What time is it?
Exactly.
Right before 2 minutes. 2.
All right. I want to know the standard one in any speed round in your case for your job is worst name you've ever had to pronounce. That just for whatever reason drove you nuts.
Let's see. I can't really think of one now. At first it was like someone like Zadrunas Ilgauskas or someone like that.
Yep.
But there's been way worse than that lately. And drawing a blank right now. Mama was pretty. That was a pretty rough one. But he was on our team, so trying to think. Who's the guard for the Bulls? He played for Duke. He had a really crazy name.
Jason Williams?
No, that wasn't it.
Jay Williams?
No. Gosh, I can't think of it. The long names, those are the ones you kind of forget over time, I think, just to save your sanity,
Yeah. But I just have a feeling Lithuanian centers are kind of that's a bad spot in general.
Yeah.
Currently, who has the longest name? Currently, who has the longest name in the NBA?
The longest name in the NBA would
first and last, whole thing.
Man, and it's not Antetokounmpo.
No.
Boy. And you know the answer to this?
I do.
You do. All right, lay it on me. I'm not.
It's Contavious Caldwell Pope at 22 letters.
Oh,
jeez.
Yeah, but that's a hyphenated name.
That is. But there's a reason we call him KCP.
Yeah, right.
when we go through. Do you have a favorite Antetokounmpo?
Giannis.
Okay.
He's the king of the Antetokounmpos, the Cadillac.
Sure. If there was another PA announcer that you could do a jersey swap with, who would it be?
Probably Lawrence Tanter, Lakers announcer.
Okay.
He's just legendary, and he's called everything from Magic Johnson through Shaq and Kobe up to LeBron. He's seen a lot there. Interesting guy to talk to, and I guess I would swap with him.
In the history of the NBA, have there been more Bobs or more Bryans?
I would say Bobs.
There have been 79 Bobs and only 19 Bryans. That's including a guy Bryan who will throw in there.
Wow.
Yeah, 79 to 19. The Bobs have it.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on any current Bryants. There's I'm just thinking of Brian Winters for the Bucks back in the day.
And near as I can tell, and I haven't researched this, I think there's only been one Bonzi with Bonzi Wells.
I think you are correct on that. Yes.
You're from Wisconsin. Would you rather go alpine skiing or cross-country skiing?
Oh, I'm an alpine skier.
Good. Downhill we go. Yep.
Downhill.
If you made an old-fashioned, what liquor would you put in it?
That's a tough one. I kind of sway back and forth. I go brandy sometimes, and sometimes I go bourbon. So if I had to choose one, I guess I would have to go with the Wisconsin staple brandy.
Sure. Favorite halftime act, and I asked this just because at the game, this is a clinching game the other night, and Red Panda's there. And honestly, I'm worn out on Red Panda, but I want to know if you've got a favorite halftime act.
Yeah, we noticed Red Panda was there too. You can't mistake that music in the background. She's been doing it for forever. Well, there was one that he's my favorite because it was the most disturbing ever. His name was Rubber Boy, and he could bend his body into just crazy distortions. And he put himself in a clear box, and his feet were behind his head. Parts of his anatomy were around his face that shouldn't have been there, and he's playing the bongos on himself while they're carrying him off the court. And you could see actually on Sports Center they showed it.
Yeah.
And Bob made Sports Center that night because he was sitting right by the tunnel, and you can see him and everyone else around him with just jaws agape, like, what was that? And that was back when Senator Cole owned the team, and he said, "No more Rubber Boy. That's the last Rubber Boy show we're gonna have here."
He's the contortionist. They take him out, and at one point he puts him whole self through a toilet seat too.
He does, yes.
Yeah. Have you seen this guy, Trev? You've never seen
I don't think so. I feel like I haven't.
Amazing. But in the most disgusting, crazy way, it's like I am not pleased watching this. I'm amazed, but I'm not at all entertained.
Nobody cheers. They just stand there with their jaws agape going, "What did I just watch?"
Yeah. Finally, as a guy that does PA and announces people for I say a living, obviously I have another job. I just want to know your impression of Ivor Robson, the guy that would stand there for 13 hours introducing the twosomes and threesomes at the British Open at 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. Never took a break. Never went to the bathroom. You know that guy? Now on the tee, Trevor Thomas.
I do, yeah. What does he do? Does he wear adult diapers or something?
I have no idea how he does it. But I imagine he's got to have mad respect from people like you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can barely make it a half sometimes.
12 hours, never leaves the spot.
That's
wow.
dumb.
Yeah,
he's dehydrated.
Yeah,
he's an amazing guy. And then, but at the end, the nice thing is at the end, he just walks away. He does not get into a clear, some sort of,
sprint
box by which he is then taken out in this, the clear loose side box, which is terrible.
Well, I hope there's a brandy old fashioned waiting for him when he's done.
You know that guy.
He earned it.
Washes it, dunks his head, and washes his hair in a Guinness after he's finished with that.
Brock, good stuff, man. Good to meet you, and thanks for coming on the show. I'm a PA announcer today because of listening to guys like you when I was young, and I'm not trying to make you feel old. That's the honest to God truth. I absolutely love Bob Betts. I love listening to you at the Bucks games, and probably followed in your radio footsteps too, just doing this now instead. So thanks for joining us today, man.
Oh, thanks, man. I'm honored to hear those words from you. I appreciate that.
And I would tell you are a great safety net for us because the PA will be like, I don't know how to pronounce it. Go back in the tape and listen to when the guy got checked in, right? Like you are our last line of defense when we can't find if it's not in there. Just like go listen to the guy when he introduced him, and that's how he'll say his name. And
that's how it'll be announced for the rest of his life.
Well, we appreciate your small contributions to sports that you may not even know you're doing, but you are there. Like I said, on occasion when some yahoo isn't smart enough to figure that out, just go listen to the guy. It checks him in. He'll tell you who his name is. Works every time.
I do that from time to time, checking tape on highlight reels to see how to his name. So it all comes full circle, I guess.
Let's hope one of us got it right. Thanks.
Right.
Thanks so much.
Thanks,
See ya.
guys.
Doing the right thing.
Well, you two have something in common. You're both on a video game. That's neat that you could reminisce about how big those scripts were. Wipeout, right? Wipeout video game.
I did, yeah. Listen, I'm just glad that you've got some of your heroes out here too.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You know, like I'm no secret about some of these guys that are mine that come through or that I admire
It's
them.
true.
Like, here's a guy that's on your side of the road. I love it. He's in your lane.
He's great.
And even if you want him to, you know, meet with some sort of untimely sort of laryngitis so that he can no longer use the job and you
I'm
can
not-
have it. But
Not wishing bad things on him, yeah, but I'll fill in every once in a while.
Like I said, we don't need anything tragic. We just maybe need
Yeah.
strep throat or something, you know, hide his Ricola lozenges so that he's not able to do the job, and then you'll be fine. So
I would just love to be on the short list anyway. But yeah, that was cool.
you're
That was cool.
6'12". You're never being on anybody's short list.
This is also true. Appreciate that. This is
But it
also
comes
true.
through, but yeah, it is crazy to do the voice over the video games, and I'm with him for people that have 9-to-5 jobs that are grinding out it, you know, because it's always here's extra money to do it. But you sit there with things that are literally that thick, and here it is. It's just this. Here's it in Wipeout. You had maybe 12 characters, 20 characters you could choose from. So
Right.
think of he wipes out, but now you got to say that 20 times because it's each guy wipes out, you know.
Right.
And
Right.
then you got to sound just as excited about the first one as you were the last one. And then you go through and you just turn. And after a while, you're just like, we're nowhere. There's still inches left. But
I just talked about this on social media this past week and how anybody with a normal job doesn't really look at what you or I do. And this whole talking to a microphone thing is difficult, or hell, sometimes you shouldn't even be paid for that, even though it's my profession or your profession. But at the end of the day, like, work is work. I mean, whether it's this or, like Rock said, roofing a church or whatever he said, roofers, right? I mean, it's
my two brothers who followed my dad into the construction business and poured foundations there in Green Bay. Like, they just assume that since I don't necessarily require a shower after I'm done with my day's work to go to bed, that I don't really maybe have to work.
exactly.
And there's probably some merit to that. They're probably
Maybe a little, but it's not
wrong.
your fault. It's not my fault. John, Wisconsin is almost always your fault. So what do you got this time from the childhood of JA?
So I'm playing into your wheelhouse for the time that I have the PA job.
Tell me everything.
When
I
I
didn't know
was
you had one.
PA my junior year for the football team and my senior year for the football. So my junior and senior year, Carl Sunby, our athletic director, did it. Let us do it.
Awesome.
After the first year, he asked me to be more professional. And I think what he meant by that was when kids would give me $1 and I'd say, ET, please phone home over the PA. He wasn't wild about that.
It's fair.
But it was great to introduce him. And then I kind of stole whoever it was. Was it who was before Bill Jarts, the old Packer?
I don't remember his name.
That did it. Was it Kramer or Bob Long maybe? But he always used to say, and here comes head coach after he'd named the 11 guys, and here comes Coach Bart Starr and the rest of the Green Bay Packers. And so then I'd say, here comes the rest, Coach Jim Hayes and the rest of the Green Bay Southwest Trojans when he came
That's
through.
cool.
So now now we're in the basketball season, which was awesome. But now I have to do them all. So now I'm doing a girls game, doing one of the girls Southwest Trojan girls game, and we're playing Preble. And this is how much it sticks in my mind. There was a girl on Preble, and her name was Dawn DeKaiser. And for roughly 3/4, now understand, what's the attendance at a women's basketball game? Not huge.
Right.
Any high school game, really, unless you're crazy. So I kept calling her Dawn DeKaiser. Dawn DeKaiser. And they finally, I realized every time I said it, they were yelling at me from the road, DeKaiser. And when I finally said, basket by number 32 for Preble, Dawn DeKaiser, they stood up and gave me a standing ovation. And I still, like I said, I remember her name to this day. Dawn DeKaiser. Key is not Keyser. It's Dawn DeKaiser.
Kaiser.
And so, again, my apologies to the family. So this is what, like, we're about to have our 40th class reunion. So this was 40 years ago, and I still remember the name of this poor gal because I butchered it again and again. And it would have been nice if she'd only scored twice. Maybe I could have gotten away with it, but she didn't. She scored a bunch. And then so when I finally got it right, they gave me a standing ovation.
Wow. You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. Are you coming back for your 40th? Is that what I heard you say?
No, it's in September, and it's over at the Titletown Brewery. So if anybody has not gotten this, so the words trickled out. So it's allegedly on Facebook and stuff. I don't know how that works. So I have to kind of see what the fall is. I need to know where Parents' Weekend is in Arkansas, or I don't think there's any marathons at that time, and I don't think it's the SEC. So I might have a spot in there to get done. I don't know. I went to my 15th. That was the last one I went to.
Oh, wow. That's been a minute.
That was the last one I went to, and that's where we sat around. And I said hi to a bunch of people that I knew, but sat at a big table with about 9 guys, and we all just laughed at one point and said, you realize in 5 minutes we could have assembled this same crew and sometimes do? So
that's awesome.
And then I try to tell people that, I tell people all the time, there's more to Wisconsin, more to Green Bay than the Packers, right? And then I go, except that I went to Lombardi Junior High, and Southwest is right off Packerland Drive. And then they go, so where was your reunion? And we're like, it was actually at the Packer Hall of Fame. So the old one.
Tell me all.
Yeah, but so we might be a one-trick pony, but and now we'll go to Titletown Brewery. So
well, if you do come back in September, promise me that I can be there with a camera and let's just meet the John Wisconsin crew for real, right? And maybe create another story or two.
You've seen most of those clowns.
I have.
So
that's true.
It is.
Real quick, as we enter the next episode of Deeper Roots with Blaine's Farm and Fleet, this time we went to the races, J.A. Did you ever go to the races growing up?
I went once, maybe twice, and I want to say we went to Seymour where they were. And it was the old Pabst Red, White, and Blue series.
Yeah.
And remember, they also had a red, white, and blue beer that wasn't Pabst. But yeah, I think it was the old Pabst Red, White, and Blue, and on the old bull ring, the dirt tracks, and the midget cars and stuff. But it was great. So not a bunch, but my dad took me there. My brothers went a lot because they were motorheads. They loved to, take cars apart and put them back together. So they'd go there a bunch. But it is. I was not a regular attender, but have been.
Well, there's still a lot of people that are. Racing is deep rooted here in Wisconsin. Our next Deeper Roots episode, actually the last one from our first season with our friends at Farm and Fleet, took us to the Madison International Speedway. They call it the McCarnes Family Farm. You'll like this. The last episode of, season 1 of Deeper Roots with Blaine's Farm and Fleet.
I can confirm that this will be by far the loudest episode of Deeper Roots. Insane! This is a good day at work. This is going to be a good day at work.
Farmers, brewers, hunters, packers, badgers, cheeseheads, neighbors. No matter what name we go by, we are bound together by our roots. These are the people, the stories, and the patriotism from inside Wisconsin. Welcome to Deeper Roots with Blaine's Farm and Fleet. It's Angie and Greg McCarnes, Madison International Speedway. The roots run deep here in Wisconsin in regards to racing, yeah?
Our family has been promoting races right here at MIS over 45 years now. My parents were the managers here in the early 80s. We actually lived in a pop-up camper behind the beer stand, and during the summer, my brother and I, this is where we grew up. And so it's been really cool because our kids have grown up here too.
Greg, Angie, thank you for inviting us out to the family farm. What's that about, by the way? We heard that over and over on Friday night. Thanks for supporting the McCarnes Family Farm.
We were at Rockford Speedway for 10 years, and when I left there, we called it reverse retirement. And so I joke with people that we were just looking to buy some land and settle down in Wisconsin, but we wanted some pole sheds, and we happened to find this racetrack that had 2 pole sheds on it. And
50 acres.
Yeah, and 50 acres, and lo and behold, there's a racetrack here, so here we go. But we treat it like our farm. We take a lot of pride in it, and with this being our family farm, we want it to be in top shape. When people come out here, we invite them to our farm to enjoy a night, and we just continue to hold ourselves at high level.
Who were the families, though, that started this whole thing back in the 50s?
It actually started as Legion Speedway, and it was a quarter-mile dirt track. In the mid-70s, Sam Bardis, he acquired the track, and then the track we see today was built in 1969. He bought land from the Hanlon family, which still has the farm off of turns 3 and 4 to expand the track. A few different people had owned it and turned it into a dirt track, and it closed down in the late 80s, and then it was brought back in 92 by Wayne Erickson, who owned Slinger Speedway. And then from there, Jerry Filner owned it, and then from Filner it went to Terry Kunis, and now we have it.
What is it about racing, specifically here in Wisconsin, that brings families together for, decades now?
The fans have so much passion, not only for the sport, but for our facility. The people that come up to me and tell me when they were 5 years old, this is where they came with their family. Their memories run deeper than my memories here.
So Friday night, we were here for the opening night of MIS for the summer season. And I've been to races and sat up in the stands and, whether it was on the hill in Jefferson or in your bleachers here, but then you invited us down into the pits. That's a completely different experience. Gentlemen, start your engines. First race of the year for all these guys. We got to pick a number, kind of like a horse race. Heads up, car coming. So I think it's super cool that there's like this swagger, right? The old school Wisconsin racing comes with like a group of buddies, and that's your crew, and they all got the headsets and the fire suits, and like Wisconsin racing is deep rooted. How cool is it knowing that you grew up in the racing industry, Greg, and you can kind of see how it's just repetitive in a family?
Like Zach Riddle, who is our defending track champion, his grandfather was a champion when my parents were running the track, and his grandpa and grandma still come out to the races. They actually met at Angel Park, and so you see all those generations. And the extended family aspect of it, I remember in the school they asked me who my grandparents were, and Grandma and Grandpa McCarnes, Grandma and Grandpa Banks. Then I named off about 5 other grandparents because of that extended family. We weren't related at all, but we were related because of being at the racetrack together all summer.
So Angie, you marry into this racing thing. What type of sales had to happen in order for you to go, yeah, this sounds like a great idea?
Honestly, it drew me right in. Greg is very charismatic anyways, but the whole racing industry, the atmosphere, I always tell my staff when I hire them, like, we're here because people pay to come and have fun. They want to have fun with their family. They want to be here with their friends. They want to cheer on their favorite driver. Buying the racetrack was obviously a big decision. That was a big, big step for us, but Greg has always promoted other people's racetracks, and we said, why not just invest in ourselves?
If you could sum it up in few words, what is it about the love of racing?
It's sensory overload. The speed, the sounds, the rumble in your chest. Like when a 410 sprint car gets pushed off at Angel Park, those things are violent. When the USAC Silver Crown or 4-barrel super late model is going around Wisconsin's fastest half mile, there's something really special about that.
Okay, so this is absolutely insane. I've never, ever been on the infield during a race. Loud, lots going on. There's 3 laps to go in this race. This is nuts. I really don't know how to describe the level of energy when there's a race happening literally 30 yards, and now here they come again. It is like non-stop action at this track. One thing I noticed about watching a race in the infield of a racetrack, you get dizzy. I caught myself doing this, watching the race, and all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute. This is so awesome. Watch that truck come off. Woo-hoo-hoo! What's your favorite part about racing in Wisconsin?
Well, it's the people. We're unique where we own a racetrack, we lease a racetrack, and we just sold our traveling series. But I have the same fans at all 3 of those events. And they'll follow us around and they'll ask, how's Al doing at school? Did your daughter get her license yet? They've watched our kids grow up, and they've supported us.
How much time and effort do you have invested to what I would call the production of a race night?
People come here, spend their money. They want to see a good show. They want to see a good run show. Our staff is very good at keeping everything moving. Once that train starts going, you want to just keep the next race going and the next one coming out.
The McCarnes name is one that has history here in Wisconsin, right? But there's some names on the wall here, and from turn 3 into turn 4. Give us your best Matt Kenseth story.
We had the Big 8 series, which is what ran our Friday night opener. We started that in 05, and Matt called and goes, I want Ross to run that series with you because I know that you'll treat him like any other driver and not like my kid. And that meant a lot to me too.
If you had a responsibility to protect the McCarnes family name, if you could just pinpoint one responsibility that you have that you maybe will give to your kids someday.
Make the decision that's best for the short track industry for the long run. There's nights where Ange and I sit on the porch at the front of the office, and there's rain in the area and there's everything else, and it's like, but we should race. Everyone's here, and short term, the implications might not be favorable for you, but to be right by the industry in the short track, we need to make the right decision.
I love it. Thanks for having Deeper Roots out. It's been a pleasure to tell your story, and hopefully the dome stays intact and you have a great racing season.
Absolutely.
What's the speed limit back here? I think that's the best Wisconsin grow-up story I've ever heard. Yeah, I grew up in a pop-up camper behind the bar.
Her dad was born above a bar, so
Yeah.
All right. Like, where do I stand? I don't even know where to stand. Holy buckets. We're on the racetrack with Rick's car. That did not make me feel good. Wow.
I'm a little weirded out that we don't have any yellow on. I'm gonna get away from the track just a little bit and put my earplugs back in. This is nuts.
And that's how you take a victory lap. That's it for this episode of the Inside Wisconsin Show's Deeper Roots with Blaine's Farm and Fleet, the final episode of Season 1. Time flies when you're spreading joy. If you or someone you know would like to share your deep-rooted story in Wisconsin in the coming year, we'd love to hear from you. Just head to farmandfleet.com/deeperroots and fill out the form. As always, don't forget to like and comment below, smash that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube, and check out a race at MIS this summer. You'll enjoy it. Feel free to leave a 5-star review on the podcast side. We appreciate you. See you soon.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Remember to subscribe on YouTube, leave a review, smash the like button. Just get with us.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Aaron's Company, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, Provea Health, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Shut up and sit down.